Welcome to the Synergistic Edge, where high performers win everywhere. I'm your host, Alvey Thompson Jr. And what I want to talk about today that is so important, but it's so underrated, is this. There is nothing more important than your health. Again, I'm going to repeat that. There is nothing more important than your health. And here's how I know this. There are a variety of problems that we can experience in our life. And these might be personal problems, career problems, financial problems, whatever it is. But when you have a health problem, that thing jumps to the top. Whether it is a heart attack, whether it's a stroke, whether it is a cancer diagnosis, whatever it is, when someone loses their health or their health is in danger, that becomes the number one priority because without great health, and even bigger than that, when you're experiencing terrible health, you might not actually have much life to live or a high quality life to live when that's the case. And I'm not trying to be dark, but I'm actually trying to make sure that you understand just how important and real your health is each and every day. And as a high performer, I know that you've been able to have a high level of success in your career, climbing the ladder, having the titles, making the deals, all of the things, which are beautiful. However, if you're listening to this, you might be one of the people who has sacrificed your health in order to get there. You might have been sacrificing your sleep, only getting 4 to 5 hours a night, and telling yourself that that's normal. You might be the type of person who is skipping meals, or when you do have meals, you're trying to grab the pizza that's convenient, or the cookies or granola bars that are in the break room, or you're grabbing and drinking a bunch of soda and coffee and other things that have a lot of caffeine in order to keep your energy up. But all of those things take a toll. And I've seen it extremely close in my life with my mom. And the way that my mom passed away was essentially from getting a surgery that she wasn't healthy enough to get. And while the surgery may have been the thing that ended her life, there was many things up to that point that was killing her based on her lifestyle. And I was heading down that same exact road if I didn't make a change. And it's one of these things where I look back and I didn't have the awareness as a kid, a teenager, or even a young adult to understand just how bad it was. But as I did become older and more mature, and I got into the career of being a personal trainer, a sports performance coach, a nutrition coach, I started to build up an awareness of why health was so important, and also being able to see when somebody was in bad health. And when I looked at my mom, I could see that. She was a ticking time bomb. And unfortunately, time did run out. And my mom's not unique in that type of a situation. There are many professionals, maybe you listening to this, who know people close to them, colleagues, who maybe have had a heart attack, who have had a cancer diagnosis, whose stress has just crumbled them to the bone. And unfortunately, that's very common in our society today. And unless you decide to make a conscious choice, unless you decide to consciously move in the direction of great health, not only are you going to avoid many of these lifestyle diseases that we see today, the diabetes, the Alzheimer's, everything like that, but you're going to put yourself in a position to thrive. And my goal of this specific episode is to help you realize that there is nothing more important than your health. Now, when we talk about health, I break it down into 4 main categories. We have our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. When I talk about physical health, that's our ability to move, that's the food that we're eating, it's our ability to properly breathe. All of that falls into our physical health. Our mental health, how are our thoughts impacting the way that we're living? Are our thoughts allowing us to move closer to our dream life, or is it taking away from it, making us anxious, making us feel small, making us feel imposter syndrome. And when I talk about our emotional health, it's understanding that emotions are energy in motion. So usually you'll have a thought, and then based off that thought, you're going to feel physical sensations inside your body. And those physical sensations that you feel are the emotions: anger, frustration, disdain, hate, but also happiness, elation, contentment, peace. These are all emotions that we might experience day in and day out. And understanding how to have great emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, emotional regulation is a huge part of our overall health. And the fourth one, and I would argue the most important one, is our spiritual health. So for me personally, that is my faith and belief in God, in Christ. Even if you're not a quote unquote believer in God or a quote unquote religious person, your spiritual health can still be connected to your values, the principles that you live by, your moral code. All of that is built into your spiritual life. And it's understanding that in the work that I do, the synergistic method, we look at all four aspects of this to create better health outcomes in your life. So I want you to take a moment and reflect. How would you grade your physical health? How would you grade your mental health? How would you grade your emotional health? And how would you grade your spiritual health? And is it one of these instances where you're working on 1 out of the 4, 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 4? Or are you consciously focused on working on all of them at the same time? Because all of them work synergistically. How you physically feel based off of if you can move your body around, how you're breathing, how you're eating, all of that is going to have an impact on your mental health and your emotional health and also your spiritual health. And also too, your thoughts and your emotions, if you're quote unquote an emotional eater, and I see this with high achieving men and women, if you're an emotional eater, well, what happens? Emotions run high, and the way that you work to regulate those emotions is by going after the comfort food, the ice cream, the chocolate, the fried food, the convenience food, the fast food. And yes, you might feel better in that moment because we live in a microwave society. We like that short term, that quick dopamine hit. But what ends up happening is very shortly after that, you feel terrible. You start to mentally beat yourself up for doing it. And now it creates this entire cycle where you're just in that loop over and over and over and over again. And what ends up happening? That stops you from being your best at your work. That stops you from being a present mother, father, husband, wife, friend, coworker, leader, you name it. All of those things have a huge impact. And even when we talk about how you physically look, if you look in the mirror and you do not like the way that you look, well, what does that do? That has a mental, emotional, and spiritual toll on you as well. It places a big toll on you. So think about that. When you don't feel great about the way that you look, you're at a fork in the road and you have two different paths that you can go on. You can have a victim mentality, feel bad for yourself, or you can even tell yourself that, hey, I'm going to do this later when the quarter's done, when this project finishes, when work slows down, when life slows down. But here's the thing. You're a high achiever. You have high responsibilities at work and at home. Things never slow down. One project ends, another one gets picked up. And again, if you're not being conscious and deciding to go the other way and say, hey, I am going to figure out how to create a system, not just a bunch of individual tactics, but a system that allows me to eat well, move my body, manage my stress, get better sleep, recover, take some time for introspection. If you decide that you're going to do those things, I guarantee you, you are going to love who you see in the mirror. Now, again, this takes time. I understand we live in this microwave society, this drive-through society. We want results now. But here's the thing. If your health's not where you want it to be, and dare I say, if you are struggling with your health, this didn't happen overnight. This didn't happen in a couple of days. It didn't even happen in a couple of months. This has been a long process that got you there. So why would you think it's not going to take a dedicated amount of time to get out of that and to be better on the other side? But here's the thing. The time is going to go by anyways. So why not spend the time working on your health physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so that you have the capacity to live the life that you truly desire to live? Again, I've talked in a previous episode about the hidden cost of success. And oftentimes climbing the ladder, getting the position, having the high level career, it came at the sacrifice of your health and your relationships. And if you haven't heard it yet, let me be the first one to tell you, it does not have to be that way. And the tricky thing is, you get away with it when you're in your 20s, or you think you get away with it in your 20s, in your 30s, even creeping into the early 40s. But then what happens? The bill becomes due. All of that ineffective, inefficient things you were doing to your body, to your mind, to your spirit over the span of a couple of decades, or at least a decade and a half, is always accumulating. And eventually, by the time you notice that it's hit you that hard, hopefully it's not too late. Because like I said, the minute your health is taken away from you, that becomes the most important thing. And if we look at our society as a whole, Western society or here in the US, the average person is very sick. I think it's something like 1 out of 2 Americans over 40 years old have at least 2 comorbidities. So we're talking about obesity, we're talking about type 2 diabetes, we're talking about some type of bad blood sugar levels, whatever it may be. That is so common. But the problem is we've confused something being common for it being normal. And I'm telling you right now, there's nothing normal about being sick. We're not meant to be sick. We're not meant to just sacrifice our health in order to make a certain amount of money or have a certain position. Now listen to what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work hard in your career. You absolutely should work hard in it and pour into it. But I want you to reframe the idea of thinking that you have to sacrifice your health in order to get that, and instead understand that your health can be your secret weapon in being even better in that. Why? Because when you eat well, when you work to manage your stress, when you get better sleep, when you are actively recovering, when you are doing all of these things consistently, well, now you have more capacity to lead. You have more capacity and energy for your family, for your friends, and obviously for your work. And you don't have to come home from a long work day, putting in 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, and now have no energy left to pour into your family. Don't be the man or woman who comes home and is dreading getting on the floor and playing with your kids, or being able to be present and see how their day went, or be present enough to ask them the deeper questions and to be able to form that young man or woman in the way that you would like to see them grow up. And the last thing that I'll touch on when it comes to this, understand your health really is a spiritual journey. Something that helps me is understanding that God is with me when I do all of this. I'm never doing any of this alone, because I know the heaviness that I used to feel when I thought it was all up to me. When I was putting the weight of the world on my shoulders, it felt insurmountable to get over. And yes, I was still achieving at a high level. Yes, I've been growing in my career. Yes, I've made a lot of impact in the lives of others, what I'm extremely grateful for. But because I know that I'm not doing it myself, that I know that my purpose is to please God and serve people, and that He put me here in order to help people just like you not only get healthy, but stay healthy and understand why that's so important. That's what gives me the fire and the energy to continue to pour into all aspects of my health. And if you're not a believer, I want you to think about how it can still help you with your own core values. How do you create core values in your life that center around how important health is? Because if it's important enough, you'll do it. As a human being, at the end of the day, you do what you do because you feel like it. And I know there's a lot of people out there on the internet who will tell you, F your feelings. It's not about your feelings, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Sounds good. But in reality, everyone does something or doesn't do it literally because they feel like it. So how do you make yourself feel like being healthy? How do you make yourself feel like working on the physical health, getting in the gym, getting out in nature, walking, eating real food, not eating fast food, throwing the processed foods away, not telling yourself that, oh, everything in moderation, when for you, true moderation doesn't exist. You're 50-50 at best. And trust me, this is not me attacking you. This is me holding up the mirror to show you that this is most likely what you're doing. And if you're not doing that, congratulations, you are on the right path. And again, working on your mental emotional health. What are you doing to decompress? How are you decompressing on a nightly basis? Most people that I see, most high performers that I see, you know what they do? They're either drinking alcohol or they're doom scrolling or they're melting in the couch on their phone. That's what they're doing. And these are high achievers. Think about that for a moment. That is so common in our society. And we have to understand our phones are programmed to be that way. All the social media applications, all the different websites, all of it just wants our attention. But once you know that that's the game and you understand that there's better ways to decompress, now you're going to feel better, you're going to look better, you're going to perform better. And at the end of the day, all of that is available to you if you truly want it. So my invitation to you is this. Take a moment to take a bird's eye view of your overall health, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. How much time are you consciously dedicating to those 4 pillars of health each and every day, each and every week, each and every month? And if you notice that there's a big hole in any of them, I highly recommend thinking about what you could do right now to fill that part up, to make that part better. Do you know that there's certain foods that you need to cut out? Do you know that you need to get to the gym? Do you know that you need to manage your stress more effectively? That you need to get off the phone in the evening? That you want to spend more time outside? That you want to spend more time with your family and friends? That you want to be more effective with the breaks that you're taking in between the tasks that you have at work? There are so many ways to go about it, but the key is to have a system that works for you. It's not about going online and just finding a random thing to do. You have to really think about, how do you fit health into your real life? Working 50, 60, 70 hours on any given week. Having responsibilities at home. Having a family that you want to spend time with. All of this is what you get to really think about. And if you want help in this process, I'm taking on 6 people where I'm going to create your 2026 customized health roadmap. And what this is all about is seeing, what are your very specific goals? What are the very specific constraints that you currently have? What are those bottlenecks? And based off of all of that, your schedule, the time you have to go to the gym, what work looks like, all of it, we will put together a roadmap that will set you up for success in 2026. If you're interested in this, go on my Instagram, go on the profile, you'll see apply right there. I'm taking on 6 people for it. If you have any questions, DM me 2026 health roadmap, and I'll be happy to help. But even if you're not going to take my help, seek out somebody who can help you in this process. Someone that understands that you need a system that works for your life, not just a bunch of random things to do. It's not about just jumping on a keto diet or a Mediterranean diet or a paleo diet or doing intermittent fasting or doing high intensity interval training or spending 2 hours a day at the gym. or downloading whatever random app that's going to read to you lullabies. It doesn't matter. That stuff is not what actually works. It can work for a lot of people, but it's understanding what actually works for you. So again, remember, if you take anything away from this episode, it's understanding that number one, there's nothing more important than your health. And number two, your health is a catalyst to help you perform even better at work and at home. So use your health to win everywhere. I appreciate your time. Stay dynamic, my friend. You can too.